How did you meet Mary Beth?
In high school. I don't recall. We were probably sharing classes together. She was the student that the teacher always called on, especially in literature class. Now, here's a wonderful poem by somebody. Mary, you have such a wonderful voice. Would you read the poem to us?
So while I was the student that the teacher might call on, he was the student that would argue, no matter what the teacher had to say, oftentimes. But
Well,
yes.
only if they thought I made a mistake.
So you sound a little bit like opposites. What attracted you to Francis?
Well, actually, I was always very attracted to him. I was attracted to his looks. I liked him. I liked him. But we didn't date in high school. We were just kind of friends. I was more social than he was, and I don't think he appreciated me back then as much.
How did you meet back up then?
The day I graduated from high school, my parents had sold the house 2 weeks before, and they told me I had 2 weeks to get out of it. And they moved to Montana.
Now, he was offered the chance to go with them, and he chose not
And
to.
she felt sorry for me at that time, because there I was, 18-year-old, living by myself. And she would stop by on her way home from work in the summertime. I didn't know she was interested. I thought she was just
I was.
being nice.
I was just being nice. I had a boyfriend at the time. But yes, I just found that absolutely amazing. I was 17, and my boyfriend of the time, we went over to his house because my boyfriend was leaving he had a job in Florida. And we went to say goodbye to Francis, and here is Francis amidst all the moving paraphernalia, boxes. There was still furniture, and I couldn't conceive of somebody my age having to deal with taking care of all of this. Yeah, so I was.
And then later that summer, I lived by myself. I had a full-time job and a little side business and bored. And I called her boyfriend in Florida. He said, "Hey, Preston, would you mind if I took your girlfriend to the movies?" And he made a terrible mistake. He said no. And here we are 51 plus years later.
We married.
Married 51 years.
Yes.
How long did you date before you got married?
3 years.
2-3 years, yeah.
3 years. We married when we were both 21. So.
Did your
Yeah.
parents like Francis?
Yes, yeah. They were amazed at him because my whole family, because when he was 18, we were 18 when we dated, and he had businesses. He was buying and selling property, and they couldn't conceive of an 18-year-old businessman. Oh, yes, no, they liked him.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Well, when I'd bring her home after a date, we'd pull up outside her garage, and her mother had a light switch that operated a floodlight. And when it was time, when we started being a little too familiar, that light would go off and on. Time to come in the house, Mary.
After you were married, you bought a gas station, right?
That's correct.
Why did you buy the gas station?
I was a young man in a hurry to get ahead, and it just seemed like an attractive way to get started. I don't know why in the world that was my idea, but that's what I did, and it worked out. It worked out, yeah.
So I'm going to jump way up. You two travel quite a bit now. When did the travel begin?
Well, it began for me at about age 41, my first adventure trip. I read a story about this crazy trip down in the bowels of Mexico in the newspaper, and I told her I'm going to do that. And the next thing you know, I'm on a plane to El Paso, on a bus
Copper Canyon.
to Tijuana, to the middle of nowhere in Mexico, and turned into an incredible adventure. Involved a train wreck and unfortunately some dead people involved, and running out of supplies, and everybody had to share with everybody else. We didn't have water or toilet paper, and and it was an amazing. I think I have that explorer's gene. So many things happened on that trip, and people helped one another and pitched in, and there was always excitement around the next bend, and I was hooked. I was hooked.
Did you get hooked that easily?
Oh, yes, but not until, he'd gone on several of these trips, and I took a year off teaching. And my first trip was a bike ride in France, and loved it. And that's a couple months later, we did the Cambodia bike ride, which was absolutely amazing. That was the one where
Involved kidnapping.
Yes,
The local police kidnapped us. Did we
the
tell
whole
you the story?
group.
There were 11 of us, and they rousted us from our sleeping bags at 2 a.m. And it's the only time on all my travels I've been afraid for my life. And it turned out at the very end of the story was a shakedown. They confiscated our gear, and the tour company paid a ransom, paid, whatever it was. They never would admit how much it was, but it all turned out fine. Again, adventure.
Where else do you want to adventure?
Well, I just knocked off my 101st country, so I'm getting slow. I'm starting to slow down a bit. We've really done, the only other real adventure I'd like to do right now is the stands, the old Silk Road type stuff. I visited a few of them, but I'd like to do the whole trip. Unfortunately, because of the political stuff going on right now, it's just not probably a good idea.
Yeah, you might get to be arrested by the police again. And
Well, there are a lot of countries now who are not friendly to us that are taking Americans and other people captive so they can trade them for something with the United States government. Mm-hmm. As we saw, and recently Iran got, $60 billion or something for 6 people they released. So, as a matter of fact, we had a trip going to Iran. I had booked it, and
A bicycling
and my
trip for
daughter,
both of us.
our daughter who works in D.C. and upper levels of government, she said, "Well, you can't take Mom. They don't allow women to ride bicycles in Iran." And I'd already booked it, and so I called the tour company, and they said, "Well, they make a special exception for our tours. They will let her ride." And then I think that was right before Donald Trump got elected. And when he got elected, they stopped all American visas. So the trip was called off, and we didn't go.
One trip I'm glad we did get to take before, things that are happening in the world today was our trip to Israel and Jordan. And we got to ride our bikes in Israel, and it was incredible. And now, of course, nobody's visiting Israel.
why biking? Why is that the way you like to see the country?
That's an easy one. I'll take that. When you ride a bicycle, you disarm people. They're not afraid of you. They are curious. What's this person doing on a bike? And they're friendly and helpful, as opposed to driving a car or being a backpacker, which we've done as well. But there's a whole different attitude of the people you're visiting.
They're happy to talk to you. They want to find out about you.
We've had so many incredible experiences of when they were biking in China. It was extremely hot, and we stopped to wait for another couple. And this little old lady, we see her walking down the hill, and she's dragging something. She gets down to the road. She's got two chairs and a pitcher of water.
Wow.
And we've had, I can tell a whole bunch more stories just like that. But the bicycles disarm people. When we were driving in the States, we have fold-up bikes, so we throw in the back of the car. And our usual routine is we get somewhere 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, get a room, and then we get on our fold-ups and we ride to the nearest bar.
And meet people.
And riding into the bar on a bicycle starts all kinds of conversations.
Especially a fold-up bike. If you've seen them, it always reminds me of something you'd see in a circus, and the clown would be riding it because it's low to the ground with the seats up high.
Incredible.
One time we flew to Calgary. We had 3 big suitcases. We were going to do a trip on the Alaska Highway and go up to Alaska. And we had 2 huge suitcases with our bikes, another suitcase with tents, just in case we couldn't find a place to stay. And then we had a couple backpacks with our clothing. But yeah, the big suitcases were for the bicycles.
But anyway, that's the advantage to bicycling. I don't know if you've found the same thing. It just people
And when you
just
bicycle through,
even in our neighborhood.
yes, but like, you're in other countries and you bicycle through small towns and villages and you stop at the little local cafe and people will come up and talk to you and it's just easy.
Yeah.
So your grandparents, what's it like to be a grandparent?
That's for me to answer.
Yeah.
You people hear this all the time. When you're rearing your children, you're teaching them. And you're have to discipline them, and you try not to spoil them. But of course, that's the grandparents' job to spoil. And unless something is dangerous, I'm the one who says yes all the time, and I can do that. Couldn't do that with my own children, although he'll say that didn't happen. I said yes too much with our own kids. But yes, no, it's just shocking, really, when you have your first grandchild and you realize how much you can love a grandchild just like it's your own. It's amazing.
How much do you see your children in your grandchildren?
For me, not that much. Not that much at all. And as I said, we have 8 different ages. And boy, there's just very little similarity in any of them. There really is. Each one has a pretty strong personality.
Is that was your question? Do we see ourselves in our grandchildren?
Yourselves
or do we
or your children in them? Like, where do you see a line, a through line?
Well, you might have different.
Yes. Now, other than looks, sometimes John's boys, I can see a little bit of you in the boys. Our daughter's children, not as much, although the one daughter has. The one grandchild is similar, and I always say, my gosh, she's like a Duckworth.
She's got my business genes.
Business acumen. She's
she
always
made
thinking
$90 yesterday shoveling snow.
in Virginia. Her 2 brothers did one house, and they shared $20, and then they went home. And Sophie was out all day earning money, 13-year-old granddaughter.
Yeah.
So
To buy her father a birthday present.
Oh.
yes, yeah.
Pretty cool.
So you are aging very well, right? You're able to still travel.
You know what?
Hopefully,
Get on a
still
bike.
bikers. I haven't done much this year with the bad wing, but
What should your grandchildren know about aging?
whew.
Well, they should know that learning doesn't ever stop. That you always have.
And I would add that it's an old saw, but I've lived it. You treat every day as though it's your last. Just have that thing.
Get as much out of it as you can.
Yeah. And a thing important to me, I always wanted to be a little bit ahead tomorrow where I started today. Maybe just one step. But if you can find a way to improve yourself every day, life will work
Yes, he's
out.
never happy unless he's productive.
Yeah,
each
that's
day.
just me, but not for everybody.
Are you that way?
No, not at all. Actually, I do try to be productive, but only because he sets the example, and I feel like I have to.
But I think you mean I lay the thread out there, and
There you
that's
go.
why you do it.
Yeah.
Tell me about your jewelry.
Well, actually, I'm very big into cameos, and he has gotten me a lot of cameos throughout the years. I don't wear a lot of jewelry anymore because, when you bicycle and you're wearing bicycle gloves, it's just too much trouble. But
Not to
I have-
mention, if you're in a third world country,
Yes,
you don't want to be
it's not
taking it with you.
advisable.
So.
But this is Francis's wedding ring. He never wears it. I confiscated it and started wearing it. And this is my wedding ring, and this was his mother's. And after she passed, I opted to start wearing it. It feels good. I have a different wedding ring that came about in the usual manner, engagement ring and whatnot. And I wear that too sometimes. But yes, it's all meaningful.
And this?
Well, this has some nice little mementos. Got this for my 16-year-old birthday from my mom. Picked this up with a couple of my grandkids at the beach. This is a coin from Peru that Francis gave me.
Ecuador.
Is it Ecuador?
Yeah.
I thought it was Peru. And this was just something I used to wear when I teach, and my fifth graders and sixth graders were always, I used to say, oh, that's shark tooth or tiger tooth or something, just something fun. But yes, so lots of fun memories.